Welcome back, gamers. It's week 2 of Crota Master Challenge. This week's challenge is going to be the Precarious Balance Challenge for the second encounter, which is the bridge. Now, there is some good news. This challenge is much easier than the Abyss. It's like a light breeze, except your light breeze will be accompanied by paper cuts and lemon juice. But it's still easier than the Abyss, and that's what counts. Now, moving on from that corny joke, so the challenge for this encounter is specifically you must cross the bridge while it's being deconstructed. Doesn't matter whether you have the chalice or the sword, or if you want to send both together at once at the beginning. You just have to cross while it's being deconstructed, aka it's not fully built anymore. Now, just to get this fail mechanic out of the way immediately so people are aware, once you're actually doing this, which we'll get into the method of how you should do it in a second, but once you are doing it and you're crossing the bridge, no matter who you are, if your teammate starts deconstructing it, but then for some reason steps back on, let's say they got mauled by enemies and they got overwhelmed, and the bridge actually did not deconstruct or for some reason reformed real quick, make sure you do not cross to the end, because otherwise it's an automatic challenge failed. If this scenario happens, which it shouldn't, but in the emergency that it does, you might as well just either turn back or maybe jump off the map if you need to, just to make sure that you don't fail and you can continue the encounter instead of wiping. Now, for the encounter itself, it's pretty much the same as you would normally do it in an optimized fashion, with the slight twist of the challenge. What I mean by this is, normally, you could do the 5-man enlightened strat, where everybody gets enlightened, and then the 6th person takes a chalice, and one sword bearer goes with them. You cross the bridge, and you do your job like normal. And in this scenario, people can enlighten the middle plate at the beginning to start the bridge with either 1 enlighten or 2. 2 would accelerate it more than 1, but 1 is just safe and everybody just does their job, gets around, blah, 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 sets up in a casual fashion. On challenge, I would recommend doing 2 in this scenario because you want to have your bridge set up as fast as humanly possible, as once you get to your 6th person with the chalice, you need to zoom across and you need to do it in a good timing so that the bridge is deconstructing, but doesn't deconstruct too much to the point of where you can't jump and finish the crossing section and then fail the challenge. So, what you would normally do here is you start the challenge as normal, you pass the chalice around, except the first 2 people just enlighten the middle plate to accelerate it, and then you proceed as normal with the passing of the chalice. Then, eventually, you're going to get to everybody's ready, and the 6th person will take the chalice as normal. Except, in this case, you will have to have your middle plate person ready and coordinate with the chalice and whoever the sword bearer is, and what you're going to do here is just a simple countdown. Once the chalice is passed to the 6th person, you're going to be in the middle plate with your chalice, your sword bearer, and whoever's going to hold the middle plate. And you're simply going to do a 3, 2, 1 countdown. And what happens is the plate person runs off the plate on their own section, and then the chalice and the sword bearer run in the opposite direction, the direction of the bridge, and they run across. And if you do this correctly at the same time, the bridge will deconstruct, but the players crossing the bridge will still be able to easily jump across and get to the end and continue the challenge. After this, and specifically after they've actually crossed, the middle person for the plate holding gets back on, and you repeat the process. Now, once you've crossed with the chalice, your job with that is pretty much done. You deposit it into the node as normal, and then your teammates who are enlightened on the beginning part just simply, once again, take turns going over like you would normally on the regular mode, and then you repeat the same process with your middle plate person again. So somebody new gets the sword, they come over to the middle plate with the holder or you just go 3, 2, 1, go, and then you split off the plate and the sword bearer goes across the bridge. They make it across while it's deconstructing, and bam, you now have 3 people across on the other end. And you repeat this process now backwards. The people that have made it across will now get on their plates, and the 3 people at the beginning get off of their plates and go play safe up top, away from all the barrier champs and all the wizards and whatnot, and you take turns killing the sword bearer and getting enlightened. Now, this time, as the 4th person gets a sword, all you're going to do is just be like, hey, guys on the other side, I'm ready to go. Plate guy in the middle, give me a countdown. And then they will do the countdown. 3, 2, 1, go. The plate middle guy gets off. The sword bearer runs forward to meet them. And again, the bridge is deconstructing. Bam, you're good to go. Again, the only thing to watch out here is to make sure that they actually got off the middle plate when they said go, and that they didn't step back on too early until you fully crossed the bridge the entire way, so you don't see challenge fail. Now, by this point, I'm sure you get the process and the pattern. 5 and 6 are going to do the exact same thing when they're crossing the bridge. Countdown 3, 2, 1, bam, you're good to go. So I'm just going to go into just builds or recommendations for builds to use in this encounter for survivability, because basically the challenge of this is really going to be surviving on the plates that you're maintaining at the beginning and not getting nuked by champions and whatnot while you're -20 on Master. Warlocks, you're first, and my condolences, you're going to be on Well of Radiance. No other way to say it. You could run something like Vespers if you have a ton of Wells already, but outside of that scenario, I think Well is just too stupid and too powerful, and also it just helps your teammates as well as you on plate duty. Plus, you also have the extra ability to Scorch/Radiant and use that as an anti-barrier stun on these barrier champions that are going to be spawning non-stop at the beginning, and, you know, you're negative 20, so you don't want to mess around with them, so just be on Solar/Well/Healing Aid for safety reasons. Titans, you're going to be on either Banner of War or Solar Titan with Synthos and Bonk. I think Synthos with Bonk is probably the easier and safer option to use here. Don't get me wrong, Banner of War is nutty, and you can absolutely keep it up and just nuke champs outright. But I think Solar Bonk is just much easier to use, and when you're stuck on a plate, you don't have to run around and glaive stuff or sword stuff, whatever, to get your stacks back. And plus, you get sunspots when you do Bonk Hammer, when, like, the Thrall come up to you while you're on the plate. So just more casual friendly, I guess you could say. And again, on Solar, you have an extra way to stun barrier champions. So probably Solar, but I did want to mention Banner of War as well. And then finally, Hunters. So on Hunter, I think both Void and Arc are viable here in different ways. For Void, you obviously have the camo aspect, as well as having the Falcon retrofit build, which will just destroy champions on its own, as you will have barrier rounds on that with volatile rounds. But I do want to mention that you can't have Overload LMG on for that. If you don't have Overload LMG on your artifact, then you can stun barrier champions. If you do have it on, it won't stun barrier champions, so keep that in mind. Other than that, you could go on Arc and do the 1-2 punch build, because 1-2 punch builds on Arc just absolutely meme champions. You just go Tractor, and then X-ray combination blow with a shoddy with 1-2 punch, and bam, the champion is just instantly dead, not even close. And then, of course, if you run Assassin's Cal, you will go camo every single time you get a melee kill, so it has some invis aspects in that as well. Both of them are really good. You can't go wrong with either one, so it's just player preference at that point. For weapons, you can bring whatever the hell you want, pretty much, but here's a few recommendations. 1. Tractor Cannon, just for debuffing the Gatekeepers and also blinding them, so your Sword Bearer can easily kill them. Otherwise, they might have some problems, as the Gatekeepers can two-shot you on Master because you're negative 20. Number 2. Having champion stuns, like I mentioned, barriers at the beginning, non-stop, and then 2 unstoppable ogres at the very end, where the normal ogres will come out. They are now unstops, so you want some unstoppable stunning at the end as well. It's only 2, but it still matters. Also, don't get close to them, by the way, because 1 stop on Master, and you're dead. Other than those choices, you can run whatever you want. You know, Add Clear Bonanza for Barons, LMGs, rocket launchers with Galley if you want. Whatever, it doesn't really matter as long as you just kill ads very quickly. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the emergency scenario where you've crossed the bridge with the Chalice and it's now on the other end, but then somebody at the beginning dies and loses their Enlightenment. I want to just break that down so people don't panic and know what to do, in this case, to fix things, so you don't fail the challenge and have to wipe and restart everything all over. But before we get to that, if you're enjoying the video or the guide helps you, maybe subscribe today, leave a comment or a like. It does help the channel, is much appreciated, and helps beat the YouTube algorithm. Alright, back to the video. Okay, now we're back to regular programming. So, we're talking about the strat where you take the Chalice across the map to the other end, and then somebody at the beginning happens to die and lose their Enlightenment, and you need to fix that now because you're going to be one short of filling all the swords. In this scenario, what you do is the people at the end who have already made it, first of all, get your Gatekeeper down. That's #1 priority. Everything else doesn't matter until later. After that's done, and you've deposited the Chalice, or you've transferred it over, what you can do is put it into the node, and then once your Drained Light is done, or maybe if the second person wants to go right away, what you do is you will reclaim the Chalice from the node when you're ready, and immediately jet back to the beginning, crossing the bridge with the Chalice, and as soon as your Chalice is filled at max, that person that just died will then take the Chalice from you, and you will now become enlightened. Now, what the person that just took it from you does is they run across to the end with the Chalice, and then they can either give it to a person as they get across to the end, or they can just go put it back into the node themselves. And now what you've just done is the person that died has now made it across the bridge to the end, and has deposited the Chalice, and now it's back to being safe, and the person that came back to fix it is now enlightened again, so they took the spot of the person that just died, and now you've regained an extra Enlightenment. So at this point, you just, again, kill the Sword Bearer, get the sword, go across the bridge, and then bam, you're going to be done whenever all your people have crossed the map, and there you go. Quick note during this process, by the way, you do still have to deconstruct the bridge to keep challenge intact, so keep doing the 3-2-1 strat as you're doing the little zigzag back and forth. Whew, okay, hopefully that made sense and it wasn't just complete rambling, but that is the guide. There you go, pretty straightforward, and once you get the basics down, I think it's going to be an easy challenge for you guys, minus the paper cuts and the lemon juice. Anyway, yeah, like I mentioned, like, share, subscribe today. It does help the channel, is much appreciated, and I'll catch you guys in the next video or in the next challenge next week for Ear Ute, alright?